Okay, we're going to do a review on the Trek eMonda SL. So we've cut it up and now we're going to look on the inside of it. So it's Inside Carbon Bikes, which is the hashtag we've been using on Instagram. So check that out. So what does it look like from the outside? From the outside it looks pretty good. It's got a nice sort of gloss black finish, and you know the graphics are pretty clean and certainly not overstated, and the general shape of the bike looks pretty good. So yeah, it seems to be handling the wear and tear reasonably well, and yeah, looks like a pretty good bike on the outside. But what does it look like on the inside? Well, let's turn it over and have a look. All right, so overall impression, it looks pretty clean. There's, you know, there's not areas of resin rich and resin pooling and all that sort of stuff and wrinkling. Closer look at the bottom bracket shows there is some sort of stray fibre that's moved in the moulding process a little bit, and yeah, not really a problem. It's just more if you stick your finger in there, like doing cable routing, you could get a splinter. Moving up the down tube, again looks really clean. You've got some extra fabric reinforcement where the water bottle mounts go, and then you've got some residue from the moulding process, which looks like some sort of foaming adhesive, which was used around in that section where there's inserts sort of between the head tube and the main down tube area. So yeah, obviously some sort of tooling aid. Moving on to the rest of the head tube, you can see the extra patches of fabric reinforcement in strategic areas. There's also a little bit of a build up on that root radius there. So, but again, that's not a concern. A little bit of tape residue left over from the moulding process, and then the molded stay, and yeah, the insert where the molded cable stop is, there's a bit of corrosion in that, and because the water and sweat, etc., can run into that, it gets a galvanic corrosion, which so you get that white residue sort of build up. There's a bit of foam again used in the moulding process, up through the seat mast, again that extra fabric to reinforce it. Going down the seat tube, again looks really clean, and extra fabric where the water bottles and the front derailleur sort of hanger are. So going along the chainstay, so they have this big hole sort of cut out where the Duotap sensor, speed and cadence sensor goes. Now I'm not a big fan of having big holes in the tube like that, because it does change the torsional load or stiffness and strength significantly. So not a fan, but I have seen them fail there. But yeah, a few brands seem to do that. So yeah, I don't know, but as I said, not a fan. Dropout all looks good. It's got aluminium faces on the wear face, and yeah, stays all look good in the bridge. So that's the non-drive side. Let's have a look at the drive side and see if there's any other things that we can look at there. So I've cut the section through the chainstay and the seat stay open in that as well, so we can see that. So again, you know, it looks pretty clean. There's nothing sort of jumping out in the bottom bracket area. A few very small sort of bag wrinkles or, you know, resin through that section, but yeah, it's pretty good compared to some we see. There's that reinforcement through the water bottle mounts. Moving further up, again, you know, slight like resin wrinkles around that molded insert, but yeah, very minor. The head tube looks pretty clean and extra reinforcement. Very small void right in the top of the headset race to the front of the head tube. So really small little void, nothing to be concerned about there. But you know, it just shows it not quite enough resin and compaction through that region. So, but yeah, nothing to be concerned about from a structural point, really. Yeah, there's the extra fabric through that junction, all sort of clean shapes. That insert looks pretty good. Moving down the top tube, you've got the unidirectional finish. There's that just a moulding tape left over. And then we come to some resin dry. So what's happened here is there hasn't been enough resin in the laminate, and so the fibres aren't fully saturated or coated and then bonded to adjacent fibres. So the fibres are loose in that section, so they're not actually doing much. So that's a little bit of a concern. It is only 1 ply deep, but yeah, so it's not that significant, but it's not ideal. Moving up the seat mast, all looks pretty uniform through there. That extra foam they put in there to mould the shape. Down the seat tube, again, looks really clean. There's extra material around the inserts, and to reinforce that. Now they put fabric in that region to prevent the drills or splintering away. You still get some splintering, but unidirectional tends to break away much more because the interlocking fibres of fabric sort of bind it together a bit. So the same thing's happened on the rivets, around the rivets. A little bit of splintering. It's pretty minor, not that much of a concern. A bigger foot rivet would have been nice, but they're pretty rare to see. So moving further down, again, it all looks pretty good. A little bit of splintering around the electronic access hole for the cable, and then into the bottom bracket junction. Now you can see there's like a step joint for the chainstay to the bottom bracket shell. That's a really nice way to do it. However, there's not quite enough adhesive there, and there's a small sort of voided section of that joint. So it's not open to edge, so it's not that bad, but it's still, it'd be much better if it wasn't there. But it is very difficult to get a void-free junction like that. So, but moving further down, there's a little void. So, there's planar void and some porosity in the laminate. So, we have seen that voids in that spot, in that exact same spot in other models and other frames. So it must be something going on with the layout process a little bit to sort of consistently there, and we have seen failures on bikes through there as well. So and then moving on to the dropout. The dropout's a metal piece which it's all really solid and bonded well, to the composite. So it's got coatings on it to protect it from galvanic corrosion, etc. And it's bonded in really well. I don't think that's going to come out and have any problems with that. So that all looks pretty good. So up the seat stay, again, all looks really clean. There's nothing nothing of any concern through there. So, and then back to the foam used to mould that shape, and that's it through a lap of the bike. So, if we look at some areas like the seat mast, we do see failures at the seat mast where people over tighten the clamp. If you don't follow the torque settings, you can crush that. And I think it would be nice if they just had a little bit more material through that section just to reinforce that a bit more. Because it is, we do see quite a few of those failing in that region. So a bit more material would alleviate that. Moving on to the BB shell. On the non-drive side, we do hear reports of water getting into the bearings. So it basically runs down the seat tube and the down tube and runs straight into the bearing, and then corrodes the bearing out. We've also had some reports of the bearing fit becoming a bit sloppy as well. So a couple of things there. On the drive side, they've got their carbon armor, which is basically a plastic pad, stick-on pad, but it actually does protect region pretty well. So yeah, it's certainly worth having. It's saved that sort of stuff has saved plenty of bikes from further damage. So. And then the moulded-in bearing seat, which it does have some problems occasionally, but usually not too bad. So that's the bike cut in half, and it's certainly not going back together again, that's for sure. You know, as you can see, the bike was pretty well made. It's well compacted. A couple of little issues with the resin dry, and a couple of little voids, and you know, a few things like that. But overall, pretty good. So that's the Trek eMonda SL review. The question is, would I buy that bike? Well, I build my own bike, so I don't buy I don't buy bikes. But yeah, look, it's a good bike. So you know, there are a couple of little things with it, a couple of design things which I'd change. But you know, overall, it's a well constructed bike. Yeah. So from the manufacturing processes, it all looks, you know, reasonably good. As I said, there's a couple of little things I'd change, but that's being pretty fussy, so pretty finicky there. So if you want to see more reviews, you know, put the comments below. You know, any feedback, comments below. Tell your friends, subscribe to the channel, and we'll keep trying to do more of this sort of stuff. So yeah, all the best, and we'll see you soon. Okay, bye.